Well, when you say grew up, I'm still growing up. So part of my life was spent, first 13 years of my life were spent here. So that's pretty good. Until my bar mitzvah, and then I moved south. Oh, it's the Sterling Spoon anniversary of Jane's Addiction's Ritual de la Habitual, as well as the 25th Lollapalooza, 25th anniversary of Lollapalooza. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, and pick up, we're now international. So I was able to, I used to look so forward to us. Originally, what was so special about Lolla was it was a touring festival. So that was what the word about it was on the street. It was like, it's a festival that tours America. But when things evolved and destination festivals started to crop up, we, thought that was the best place to do it was in Chicago and not try to tour it because we were running into touring amphitheaters. Amphitheaters are not conducive to festival fun, if you will. But I was not, my heart wasn't satisfied because I had looked so forward to traveling with musicians and getting to know groups better and becoming friends with them. And so reading over my contract again and again, I was like, well, we can take this international and still have a music summer camp, Now it tours all year round because we tour in September, we tour in March, end of March. So, and we're going to pick up more locations around the world internationally. So I in a constant state of meeting my fellow musicians, my contemporaries, and I just love that. It's one of the great joys of my life. Farewell tour.
Friends, correct?
Yes, it was. It was. Well, it started out, back in those days, and this is 1990, 1991, what we did for fun was we didn't play games on the internet or on our cell phones. We didn't have that. We would go to each other's house and listen to each other's record collections. And so, like, we would pick can I hold this record and look at it? Would you play this record? Have you heard of these guys? And so that's what I put Lolla together as if I was going to my friend's house to go and listen to records. And Henry Rollins was going to be there, and Gibby Haynes was going to be there from Butthole Surfers, and Trent Reznor, this new Nine Inch Nails. Have you heard of them? And boy, we idolized Susie, and gosh, she came up from across over the pond to America to perform with us, and that's what it was. Simultaneous, two things were happening. The music industry was starting to go into a tailspin and fall out because people were starting to download music for free. Napster, the introduction of Napster was all happening. So that was going on, and I saw safety in numbers. Rather than go out and try to tour Jane's Addiction by itself into a big, not stadium, but a big field or shed, I said, you know what, let's go out with our friends, because I knew that there was an underground that was happening. And I knew that collectively we would have a great party. So that was the original stimulation behind, let's do it this way and it'll succeed. And, now we're up to this year, the 25th anniversary. We have 4 days of music, and it goes pretty much into the morning because we do after parties as well. So, and we have 170 artists over the 4 days, yes. I'm very proud. It is, not only am I proud of it for me, but I'm proud of it as I look at it as our family's festival. It's our family business. My wife and I and my two boys, we work on the festival. My boys don't know it yet. It's their festival. I always try to say, I look over to my boys and I hit them in the ribs and I go, hey man, nice festival you have here. And they laugh at me and they go, Daddy, this is your festival. And I said, no, it's our festival. Because it is. I didn't relinquish. I might have given up some shares of it, but I still am a partner. I think we were the first to receive an award from MTV. You know that? I still have that Space Guy, but it's all discombobulated. It's off the stand. There's no flag, but we use it as a door holder. Well, I still cherish being in Jane's Addiction. As hard as it is, I was sitting with my friend David, who's in Bon Jovi, last night. He's the keyboard player. He's such a great guy. And we were talking about band dynamics. And I said, I can't say that these guys, my band and I are friends. And there was a time we didn't like each other at all. But I would say that I love being in Jane's Addiction so much that it overrides any kind of like shortcomings I might see in them and they might see in me. I'm really happy that, and I'll thank God when I meet him, thank you so much. It was the greatest life. I have nothing to complain about. I only want to kiss you and thank you because I look out at the world and to be honest with you, I have, from time to time I get a bit depressed. And you know why? Because I see the world is growing and growing in number. And I see how much people want to be loved. And I get to be loved so much because of the music that I made. And the people, we all want love and we all want money too, And I made so much money. And so I get depressed because I want everybody to feel as good as I do about having been made, special, have been selected to be celebrated, and it happens to me. It happens all day long. That's why I come to New York too. There's so many cats and everybody's hustling, and I could sense they all want to be as special. They want to be feeling as special as I do when I show up, when I get out of the car. And it's hard, But so, everybody tonight, if you have a child, you can start there. Give your kid a hug and just say, you are the best. Let them know and give them a kiss and say, man, I'm so happy you're here. Yeah, it's scary. Yeah. But let's stay positive. Got to stay positive. We're here breathing. And so as long as we're breathing and we can be a good help, with everything, like make people happy, do it. You know what I mean? Make people comfortable, do it. And we'll be all right. Going with us out on tour is going to be Living Color, who was an original 1991 Lollapalooza alumni, and Jay Mascis and Dinosaur Jr., who played Lolla a few years later, but was from the original era of grunge and when we were coming up and breaking big. So it ought to be a show for anyone who appreciated that era. They'll be satisfied by the time they leave. Let's call me the Godfather.
There you go.
I'll take grandfather. But I'll tell you a funny thing, real quick. So do you remember Booyah Tribe? These big dudes that came, they were Samoan. And they were playing Lollapalooza a few years after it had started. I was very excited to meet them. And they are, I think it's safe to say they're a gang affiliate with, I think they were Bloods, because they all wore red. Anyway, they were going to introduce me to their Godfather. And the guy's name, you called him Godfather. I was really nervous because they all towered over me. I went to shake his hand. I said, "Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, grandfather." But he didn't beat me up. And he just shook my hand and kind of giggled. And we had a good time. Earlier that day, he had literally punched. Somebody was trying to tell him he couldn't come in because the credentials hadn't been worked out. and he punched a hole through his own windshield to tell the guy, I'm Godfather, let me through, and they let him through. So he was a big, mean dude, and I called him Grandfather. Spandex hairbands, they all try to look like girls, and it was kind of funny. Sometimes they kind of did, and then some of them didn't, which was really bad. And I just thought, man, no, it's too tacky. This is too tacky. We got to do something else. I grew up with the downtown Silver Lake art community. There were people running around like pressing up their own records. People like, Exene Cervenka and John Doe were my mentors. I looked up to them. And I got in with that collective of, there were artists, there were, gay people, there were musicians, and those are the people that they allowed me in. I mean, I felt really privileged. I was building stages for people like Sonic Youth would come out. Einsters and Neubauten would come out, and we would find places in the desert, and we were doing desert parties before there was Burning Man. And that's where I cut my teeth, and I learned the art of promotion and production. But I was the guy, hammer and nails, building the stages in the desert, and then out would come Sonic Youth or the Minutemen, Meat Puppets, and then I got to play too. The band? Well, so I was going through band members as you do, a lot of junkies. In those days, simultaneous to what I was doing, there was the Contras in Nicaragua, and that were bringing crack cocaine, and from somewhere else they were bringing in heroin. Everybody was doing. There was such a heavy drug epidemic in those days. So we would keep musicians for a few weeks, and everybody was hooked on something. And the band would slightly fall apart, but you bring in somebody else. I brought in Stephen Perkins because the drummer was a junkie, so I had to bring in a new guy. Eric Avery, the drummer, the bass player, I was in another band, Psycom. I didn't want to stay in the band anymore. That band had all turned to Hare Krishna. And I was like this one guy in a band full of Hare Krishna guys. You could see how that wouldn't last. So I started a new one, and I met this kid, Eric. He was cool. He was drunk, liked to drink, and he started doing dope just like everybody else. His sister was dating Steven, the drummer. Steven's best friend was Dave Navarro, the guitar player. And those guys were into hair metal. But they were such good players, and I knew they're very young and they're impressionable. And I was older than they were by I think 10 years, believe it or not. So I'd already gone through the transformation of rock and roll becomes, no, it's not all rock and roll. It's David Bowie and it's Iggy Pop and it's Lou Reed, and now we're dipping down. It's Joy Division, and you know what I mean, and Susie, Banshees, and The Cure, and the newer things that were happening in London, coming out, it didn't take them. It took them almost no time. They threw away their headbands and their strategically torn jeans, and they started getting down and really partying like the Silver Lake crew, and it caused problems. Obviously, drugs leads to problems, unfortunately. Wish it didn't, but it's always the aftermath. It's never while it's going on. It's always the aftermath that's the big problem, Me? Thank God, yeah. Yeah. My wife, I love her a lot. I saw her as a way to better myself, because she was a classically trained ballerina, and she wasn't messing around. She wasn't messing around with me. It took me 2.5 years to go to bed with her, but so I would keep hiring her so I could be around her and talk to her. And I just wanted, and I would always tell her, you know, I can be really a much better man, because she's just like, you're a mess. I really don't want to be that close to you. You're very nice and you're cute, but I can't be around you. But I kept changing and changing, trying hard. So now we're married for 14 years, and we have 2 children, and we travel the world performing together, and she's my best friend. She might be my only friend. That's the only thing. It's a little sad, is I don't have many friends. But you only need one good one, and you can have a great time. I'm working on something. I'll tell you, Gene. It is. I'm proud of Jane's. I'm proud of Lolla. But what I'm about to do, I will tell you that if I accomplish it, and I think I'm going to, I'm very confident about this. It will leave, in my legacy, it might leave the greatest imprint of all. I'm trying to establish a new form of entertainment that is very musically driven. It's immersive entertainment. Immersive entertainment is where you go into a theater, or in my case, I'm building a complex that will be approximately 100,000 square feet. It's going to have music, dining, dancing, theater, film, holograms. Yes, and it will go, and you will be immersed in what is going on. In other words, you're not sitting in a seat. You're not a passive audience. You're an involved audience. And but I'll have stages where you can see music. Actors will be all around. You might be arrested and taken to prison. Yeah, things like that are going to happen. And there it is, to sum it up in a nutshell. But you'll be released, I promise. Maybe, if you're nice and you haven't done anything wrong.
Thanks for watching this interview with Perry Farrell. For more with all your favorite artists, make sure to hit the subscribe button. As always, it's Lou Brutus signing off.
Whisper in my ear, but I cannot hear what you say. Your mama should have loved you, but I know she's an animal. Even if she loves you, she's riding with her hands full.